people, Tracy Reed here today, coming at you with a layout in my Life Crafted album using the new Citrus Twist Kits Routines August collection. And I have one of the 4x6 cards pulled into Photoshop right now because I had an idea that I wanted to do, and I'm going to need to do some digital manipulation. So I really want this August card, or this routines card, I should say, as a full page in my Life Crafted album, which is 5 inches wide by 8.25 inches tall. And normally I don't advocate for making things bigger than that they're supposed to be because they will stretch out and get pixelated. But there is a way to approach this so that you can do that without it getting too pixelated. So right now I have this opened up in Photoshop, and if I were to make it bigger right now, pixel based, it would get distorted. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to close this, and then I'm going to open a new file, and I'm going to make it 8.25 by 5. And then I'm going to drag and drop this journal card onto the canvas instead. So you can see that it's actually not the right orientation because it's a 4x6 card. So I'm going to rotate it and then make it larger until it fits this card or this page widthwise. Now, I don't want, I have two options. I can either make it bigger and have just two tiny little half circles. Well, actually, only this one really gets tiny. Or I can make it just have white space at the top and bottom edges. And since I don't really want this tiny, tiny piece, I'm going to go ahead and just leave it this size. And then I'm going to add white behind it so that all of my little dots are finished, basically. So this routines is now sideways, so I'm actually going to make it its own layer and move it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I have the card selected and then contiguous selected, because if I don't have contiguous selected on my magic wand tool, I'm on the magic wand tool, if I don't have contiguous selected, it will select all of the same color that I choose, and I only want it to select just routines. So we're gonna go ahead and click so it selects, and then I need to grab the R by holding down the shift key and then command or control J to make it its own layer. So now if I turn all this off, you can see it's its own layer and I can put it wherever I want. So now what I want to do is have all of these be their own separate clipping masks so that I can add photos and papers to them, so, or journaling if I decide to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I'm still on contiguous, and I'm going to select on the card in the white space so that it selects the outside edges of all of these circles. And I'm just going to go ahead and rasterize the layer and then delete it. So now if I turned off all the extra layers, you can see I just have the circles here that I can now play with. Now, the thing is that I can either leave it like it is so that I will no longer have the double circle with the little outline around it, or I can select in the white space, but when I do that, it's going to also select the lines that are in the middles of the circles. And so if I were to delete that and then clip a photo to this, the photo would have all of these lines missing as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to not do that and just make them the little circles and just ignore that they had outlines to begin with. So now I can make each one of these their own layer and use them as clipping masks for photos, for papers from the collection, and then print it through my Silhouette software if I want to, or I can print it just like this. It depends on how much I do in Photoshop. If I wanted to, I could now take this over to Silhouette and use it as a cut file, but I'm not going to go that direction. I think I'm going to use these as clipping masks instead and then just print it the way that it is. So I'm just going to go ahead and select and hit Command J to make a new layer from my selection on all of these little circles, oblong shapes. And I think I want to maybe rearrange it a little bit as well, which I can do once they are all their own layers. Almost there. Let's do the gray as well. Okay, so now they're all on their own layers, and I can delete the original and turn the white layer back on. I'm going to go ahead and lock this white layer so that it doesn't move around. And now I can just move these wherever I want them to be. I can even rotate this back so that this routines is no longer sideways, and just change around the way that these are oriented. Maybe move this over here and move this over here. I can't really move this one off the edge because it is only half. So I have this kind of awkward space right here now. So perhaps I will use that for an embellishment rather than trying to fill it in this way. I think I want this one to be vertical. I think that takes up a little bit more and better space. So now I can actually leave some of these as journaling blocks if I wanted to as well. I think that this one would make a great journaling block. I can rotate this one back horizontal so it makes a journaling block. But I think that this is going to be the base for what I'm going to end up doing with this page. So let's go into fast forward mode and get started. Okie dokie, the first thing I'm going to do is drag in one of the papers for the background rather than this white paper, and I'm going to start bringing in some photos as well. None of these photos, well actually just mainly that photo wasn't very high quality, so I'm okay with it being a little bit small, especially since I'm going to pair it with a larger photo on the side of my husband writing poetry on our porch. So I'm going to make this one 8.25 by 5. Vertically, of course, and that's going to sit alongside the Life Crafted page over here. So I'm just setting it up so I can see it all together. And I realized that I added too much space, so we're going to go back to 5 inches on that side. And now I'm just going to add in one more photo before I start manipulating the other boxes. And I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do yet. That's why it still says routines. I'm going to change that. And I'm also going to change the background paper because I wasn't feeling like it was the vibe that I wanted. Because initially I was going to make it so that this was about, you know, our routine of sitting out on the porch every day now that we've made it nice. But I think instead this is going to go into my my home album and just be about redoing the porch. So that's what I'm going to end up being, or that's what I'm going to end up writing about. So now I have all of my photos ready. I'm just trying to figure out how I want this to be arranged. Since I can move all these circles independently, I'm gonna probably just rearrange it big time. Actually, I do. It ends up not looking anything like the original. I want this Good Things Take Time. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger in the box. Then I'm gonna erase the extra space and paint over it in gray so that it looks like it was there the whole time. I thought maybe I would add in some pattern paper to these blocks, but I didn't like the way that it looked. So I'm gonna use the blue one for journaling, and I'm gonna use the orange one for some more journaling, but I'm gonna add a journal card to that. First, I'm gonna add in journaling over here. Just gonna, my standard typewriter font, making sure it lines up with the lines. And then I'm going to bring in a journaling card from the journal cards. Well, actually, yes, I think I'm gonna bring in, well, initially I was gonna bring in a journal card, but I decided to use this journal block, I guess, on this paper instead, painting over it with the same green color so that it doesn't look like, you know, it doesn't have the white border that looks all wonky. And then I'm going to add in all of the things that we did that day for the outside. So we bought new chairs, little table, hanging lights, an outdoor rug, cleaned it up, and it looks nice. We've been out there quite often since we did this. And then I'm adding a stroke to the outside in the same color as the card so that it matches. I added 2 strokes. I added a white one so that it matches the other block, and then I added a green one on the outside of that to get that same sort of double line around the edge. Now I just need to rearrange because I'm not loving the way that this looks. I decided to separate the two journaling areas visually. So I do that by moving all 4 of those bottom ones up and then putting the ones that were on top on the bottom instead. I'm adding a stroke to all of the, I made a copy of the photos and then added a stroke to the bottom copy so that they would all have white outlines as well. So now I'm just moving things around so that everything is nice and evenly spaced. Then I'm going to separate out the photos and print them on photo paper, and I'm going to print this whole paper all done already just like that on Epson Premium presentation paper. So I'm just setting it all up for print now, merging things together so that I don't mess it up. And I decided that I needed to rearrange this because otherwise the holes for my album would go through the writing and that wouldn't be good. It still kind of did a little bit on the blue, but not too bad. Now I'm going to print at photo quality on the best paper. Then I'm going to print these as well. Just going to arrange them so that they print well, and I'm just going to hand cut them out. I'm not going to send them to my Silhouette because I don't want to. I want to be lazy. Hand cutting is faster in this instance. All right, so now we are in the real world. This is only going to take me a few more minutes to put together. And I hand cut all of these out so that I can put them down. See, super fast and easy. Of course, I have that sped up to like 8x, so there's that. Okay, so now that I've got those cut out, you can see that they have a white border around them that I printed directly onto the Life Crafted page. Cute. Now I'm going to bring in some of the embellishments from the Routines collection, as well as some embellishments from my Citrus Twist stash. I just want to add a few things here and there. I don't want to distract or detract from the composition. I liked that happy to be here down by the cat sitting on the patio. I just love that he's sitting underneath the chairs. And the beautiful moments with the little flower was perfect for up there in that dead space in the photo. I like the way that the flower sort of mimics the sun on the wall. Trimmed down that happy to be here piece because it was a little bit big for the space. Then I had a little tiny white border from, you know, a little bit of an offset silhouette cut on that Good Morning. So I cut it down as well. Add in some more flowers, but it's going to come together real quick. The problem that I had more than anything was what to do with sort of the blank spaces in between all of the circles on the other side. So I want to add another flower because I have lots of plants on the patio. I mean, I have lots of plants in our house in general, but I have lots of plants on the patio. So I wanted to play those up with some flowers and some vining leaves. And it fills up that space nicely and gives some organic feel in between all of those circles. I like this says, "You are my jam," because he's out there with his guitar, so I thought that was cute. And I'm looking for a few other things to sort of add to it. I don't know why I added purple. There was purple you can see down there in the bottom right corner, there is purple in the collection, but there wasn't really purple in anything that I chose to scrapbook with, but that's okay. We're going to add some black and white hearts from my stash and some yellow hearts as well. And I really like the way that this came together. I think it was fun exercise in Photoshop. Not really something that I do a lot, this sort of style, but I think it's fun. So if you enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. I'd love to have you. If you don't already, you can follow me over on Instagram. I'm at Tracy M. Reed. I'd love to see you over there as well. And I'm going to add a date, and I'll see you next time. Bye!